So you see a headline, a huge AI conference, a massive national mission. It looks like Meghalaya is at the forefront of India's AI future, right? But what happens when you start to follow the money? Well, a very different picture emerges. So let's get into it.
And look, the source material we're looking at today, it does not hold back. It starts with this pretty bold claim. This really sets the stage for what we need to figure out. Who's actually driving this whole tech revolution? And, well, who's just kind of catching a free ride?
Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture this. It's December 3rd, 2025. Meghalaya is hosting this big event, the Regional AI Impact Conference. And I mean, this thing was framed as solid proof that the state is a tech leader. The announcements made there, they were huge. A big deal for the whole country.
And what's just wild here is the sheer scale of the central government's IndiaAI mission. I mean, we are talking about a budget of over 10,000 crore rupees. And then there's the hardware. 38,000 GPUs for all that computing muscle, plus hundreds of labs planned. And the goal behind it all? Pretty simple, actually. Make AI something everyone can access.
So naturally, when you host the event where all these massive national plans get announced, the message to the public seems pretty clear, right? The takeaway is that Meghalaya isn't just some participant. Nope, it's leading the charge into India's high-tech future.
Okay, but this is where things take a turn. Once all the confetti settles, the source material basically makes us stop and ask a pretty awkward question. Let's just circle back to that budget. 10,300 crore rupees. I mean, that's a colossal investment, and it's all coming from the central government.
And then there's this number, 38,000 GPUs. These are the high-powered engines that make the whole AI revolution run. We're talking about a nationwide infrastructure build-out here. So, here's the billion-dollar question, or I guess the 10,000 crore rupee question. With all this money and all this hardware coming from the center, what exactly was Meghalaya's financial contribution? How much of their own money did they put into this massive mission?
And the answer, at least according to our source, is, well, it's pretty blunt. Zero. Zilch. The state's financial contribution was literally nothing. And suddenly, with that one word, the whole story just flips on its head.
Okay, so that brings us right to the heart of it, doesn't it? If the state isn't footing any of the bill, then what kind of partnership are we really looking at here? Let's try and break down who's doing what.
Yeah, this table really lays it all out. On one side, you've got the center, bringing all the heavy-hitting stuff. The money, the GPUs, the labs, the training targets, everything tangible, really. And on the other side, well, the source says the state provided the building, the people to fill it, and then, took the credit.
There's actually a name for this. It's called credit appropriation. It's a classic political move where, one government body basically takes credit for a project that was funded and built by someone else, usually a higher level of government. So how do they pull this off? How do you make a project paid for by the central government sound like it's your own state's big idea? Well, a lot of the time, it just comes down to some very clever, very subtle wording.
And the trick is surprisingly simple, but man, is it effective. Look at the language. The center is always super clear. The government of India has allocated. But then the message coming from the state changes. It becomes, we are establishing AI labs. And that's it. That one word makes you stop and think, wait, who exactly is we? And that little bit of confusion, it's totally on purpose.
And that's the magic trick right there. That one little word, we, just completely blurs the line. For the average person listening, it sounds like their own local government is making these huge investments. But the reality is, they're just providing the stage for the announcement.
This all leads to an even bigger question, though. Okay, so if Meghalaya isn't putting money into the central mission, what about its own tech scene? What is the state itself investing in to build its own homegrown tech ecosystem?
Well, according to the source, when you start digging for the state's own tech investments, you find some pretty big holes. There's no dedicated innovation fund. The startup policy is generic, without any special perks for AI companies, and there's very little in the way of state-funded tech infrastructure or R&D.
And man, that's a world of difference compared to states that are known as tech hubs, like Karnataka or Telangana. Those places don't just host events for central programs. They actively build their own ecosystems from scratch. We're talking serious state-funded policies, their own innovation funds, their own incubators.
So what's the takeaway here for you? Well, the source material ends on a really powerful note. It basically hands you a toolkit to hold people accountable.
It's all about learning to ask the right questions the next time you hear one of these big, flashy announcements.
And this is your roadmap to getting the real story. First step, ask for the actual budget numbers. Don't just take their word for it. Second, go verify. Check out these new labs and ask, who's paying for this, the center or the state? And finally, third, question the whole strategy. If you're claiming to be a tech leader, where's your own investment? Where's your skin in the game?
And yeah, the source really doesn't pull any punches with its conclusion. It calls this model parasitism, not partnership. That's a really strong word, right? It basically suggests one group is just living off the resources of another without giving much back. And so all of this leaves us with one last really important question to think about. What does it actually mean to be a tech leader? Is it just about being good at hosting conferences and getting good press? Or is it about doing the hard, slow work of actually building something real from the ground up?